Welcome.
Good evening. Welcome to our October meeting on a brisk October evening. And we'll, as we always do, begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We're very thrilled to have back Rob Griepentrog from the On-Site International Prayer. So if you would bless us after we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I understand you had a very successful public safety breakfast here last week. So thank you very much for doing that for our communities. That's great, Rob. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Lord, I love you and I bless you in this place tonight. You are welcome here, and you are welcome to work here. Lord, I ask tonight that you would pour your Spirit out upon all here in attendance, and any who may be coming in a little bit of time later. Lord, as you attend and as you minister in this time, I ask, Lord, that you would pour out your wisdom upon all who have decisions to make, have presentations to present. And I pray, Lord, that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts would be pleasing to you. And Lord, if any of them are not in that place yet, I ask, Lord, that you would help bring them to that place, whatever that's to look like tonight. Lord, pour out your wisdom, your joy, and your grace on all of us here. And Lord, I pray that you would be lifted up in our hearts and our minds, and Lord, in our actions tonight. Lord, we confess that without you, Westfield would be nothing. So I thank you for what you have done and are doing in our community, the folks who have lived here a long time, and even those who have moved here just in the last few days. I bless you and worship you tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. President Nate?
Yes, sir. Right. Will the clerk please note the presence of a quorum?
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
All right, thank you. I would like to make an announcement on changes to the agenda. The printed agenda should be correct, but just in case, ordinance 18-49 Bordeaux Walk PUD will be continued until October 22nd. There were some questions about some issues with that project, and I think we look forward to the council introduction at our next meeting. And that was courtesy of the petitioner as well. Now I would entertain approval of the minutes, and I'd entertain a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Joe Edwards and a second by Steve Hoover. Is there any discussion, additions, or corrections? Hearing none, I'd ask the council to approve minutes as stated by a voice vote. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes stand approved. Moving on to claims. I'd entertain a motion to approve claims as stated.
Move to approve claims.
Motion by Mark Keene. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second from Robert Horkay. Any discussion, additions, or corrections to claims? All right, hearing none, I'd ask for approval of claims as stated. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims stand approved, 7-0. All right, this time we have no miscellaneous business or special presentations, and so we'll move into old business. The first item of old business is ordinance 18-42, the 2019 budget. We had a public hearing, and we will do that tonight. So at this time, I will open the public hearing at 7:05. Do we have anybody that would wish to speak to our budget tonight?
Good evening. My name is Ray Schneider, and I live at 4455 Whitney Road in Westfield. I've been a resident of this city for 5 years. I went out to the city website over the weekend and all the way up until 4 p.m. this afternoon, and I don't see very much out there on the budget. I don't see any numbers. I don't see any comparisons of revenues and expenses from 18 to 19. You know, where's this stuff at? We're supposed to be transparent. I don't see any transparency there. The budget is showing $39 million. Last year it was 36.2. That's an 8.3% increase from 18 to 19. The cost of living index increase for the last year through August of 2018 was 2.7%. So how do we get off doing 8.3% increase in the budget when cost of living is only 2.7%? So I'll be looking at the website. You know, I got just the first 2 pages of everything that was put on the website last year regarding the budget. There's no financial numbers. Everything is blank. And I checked the last time at 4:01 this evening. So my question, where is the transparency to the residents of this community? You should all be ashamed.
Good evening, members of the council, mayor and others, and the public. Linda Nass, 1122 East 161st Street in Westfield. Speaking for myself and neighbors as we put together some things, and I'm going to try to not touch on what Ray spoke about. But the change in the format and the information included in the budget presentation for this year, which was online, makes it difficult to compare anything to last year, know where we are in relationship. It's like comparing apples to oranges. And like he said, lots of information missing, expenses missing. And last year we had several forms on the state site. Those are all blank except for the one. So, questions. If the city tax rate is flat, what accounts for the 2018 budget presentation showing a $200,000 home paying $600 to the city, but in 2019 the same home pays $650 difference? That's actually in the presentation. Makes no sense. Where's the comparison of the general fund and other fund expenses for 2018 compared to 2019? Last year, we had a breakdown of the general fund into police, streets and public work, administration, communications, customer service, HR, informatics, economic development, parks, clerk treasurer, mayor, city, council, board of works, debt service. None of this information is available to this year, for us this year to look at. I certainly hope the council gets this before you vote to approve a budget, that you've looked at more than is available today. Where do we find the budget for police? It says in the presentation that we're adding. There's absolutely no budget number for the police expenditures for next year. That's in the general fund of $21 million. Is the tax cap loss represented in any of the pie charts as it was represented last year in the tables? The $17.4 million in property taxes, is that before or after tax caps? This year, you're not telling us that. See the second pie chart in your presentation. How much of the increase or change in food and beverage tax is affected by the repayment of the city of Carmel of previous taxes paid to Carmel in air? What years does that cover and what amounts? Is that why we're seeing increases in food and beverage tax, or we think it's from something else? How much of the, although the rate is to be flat, the increase, well, Ray mentioned this, 8.3%. Could you please include the dollar amount of city tax loss due to TIF in the budget presentation, or give us the number? Proposed end of 2019, will TIF fund balances be about $7.6 million unused balances? What is the purpose of that $7.6 million? Because it's been collected, it's going to be collected. Will property or lit taxes be lowered due to increase in population and development? Is the city planning a wheel tax? Is the city supporting an increase in lit? On the sustainability report, it says they do. I don't know if the county and others will support it. Is the city offloading any more expenses to the township as it did with parks and classes? Maybe fire departments, maybe more parks. Will the city break out the Grand Park compensation, promotion, commissions, communications, and include with the GP costs instead of just throwing it in general fund? I have handouts for you all that included all of our questions. We searched and we found no answers, and we'd like to have some. So you can pass those around to the council members. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:11. Okay, the 2019 budget is up for adoption consideration October 22nd. We have had extensive meetings over the budget, and so we'll take a look at these questions and we'll respond. And we appreciate your comments tonight. The budget is always a work in progress. We've done a very good job at keeping the city tax rate flat, and we've done a good job of planning for the future and the future needs of this community. I think you can see that in the resources we've put out. The public infrastructure works, the growth of our economy, the growth in our tax collections and revenue from assessed value, the growth in the value of your homes, and this council has been doing an excellent job with the help of our excellent staff who are professionals, and we appreciate your comments. Any other comments?
Mr. President, I do have a comment. And
Yes.
that simply is, when people have questions about the budget or any questions about the city, I think that they have a responsibility to pick up a telephone and call Todd Bertrand or John Rogers and ask those questions personally and get answers directly from the source. I mean, there's plenty of time and we know those people have been in place for a long time. They're the ones that develop the budget, and they're the ones you direct your questions to, and you get your answers. If you don't like the answers, that becomes another matter. But to claim that there's no transparency, or I can't find this, if you don't make a call to be directed to something or set up a meeting, then I think there's a problem there.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Anyone else? All right. This matter is up for adoption October 22nd, 2018. Next item on our agenda is the ordinance 18-43, the 2018 GO bond. It is, we had a council introduction on this September 24th. This is also a public hearing tonight, and I will open that public hearing at 7:15 p.m. So I will open the public hearing. Does anybody have any comments on ordinance 18-43? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:16 p.m. This will be up for council adoption on October 22nd.
Mr. President, this
Yes, sir.
this is simply a continuation of what we've been doing year in and year out to allow the police to buy cars and equipment, this sort of thing. So it's not anything new, it's just a continuation of what's been going on. We're just kind of renewing the bond, basically.
That's correct, Joe.
This is not in addition,
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? All right, we'll move on to ordinance 18-46, appropriating the proceeds of the city of Westfield for GO bonds. We had a council introduction, and again, this requires a public hearing tonight. So at this time, at 7:17, I will open the public hearing. Would anybody present care to comment on this ordinance from the public? Hearing no response, I will close the public hearing at 7:18 p.m. This will come back as an adoption consideration October 22nd. Now moving on to new business. State Road 32, the NDOT interlocal agreement. Mr. Jeremy Lawler presenting.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. As stated before you tonight for introduction, is a interlocal agreement between NDOT and the city of Westfield for the construction of State Road 32 improvements from the existing Poplar Street through East Street. It is a 50-50 split on a $15 million total cost project. That cost includes right-of-way services, construction, and construction management costs. NDOT's contribute $7.5 million, not to exceed, with their dollars going first to right-of-way acquisition. Westfield would then contribute $7.5 million to first fund design, then construction services and construction management. With your approval, we would enter into an agreement with a design firm that we have selected as Structure Point, American Structure Point. That was chosen through the NDOT interview process based on, we had, I think, 5 groups that applied. Structure Point rose to the top, and with your approval at this either meeting or the next, or whenever you see fit, we then can start negotiations with Structure Point to identify the design cost and then start moving the project forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Process from start to finish, how long?
Start to finish, how long? So we would start as soon as November, which would kick off design, which is led with initial surveying and then the environmental process. Because this is a project that uses federal funds via NDOT, we have to follow the federal process. In that environmental survey, which will take a good period of time, that includes everything historical in our historical district downtown. So those processes will take a while. The project construction will be in 2022, with the final wrap-up being in 2024. So it's about a two construction season project, so.
And NDOT came to us, just to be on record, NDOT came to us and advanced this project and gave us an opportunity to accelerate this process. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So the earliest that we would have any improvements downtown currently would be 2028. They gave us the option of this agreement, this interlocal, to expedite that.
And the project right now NDOT has for 2028 it is just a reconstructing of the existing roadway. It adds no lanes. It has no roundabout or intersection improvement at East Street. It's just a reconstruction through Westfield of what we already have.
And so is it your opinion that out that far in 2028, we are saving, we have the ability to save construction costs? Of course, no one can predict the future.
When we were evaluating this, my biggest concern was looking back 10 years from today and what traffic patterns were then, and then considering what 10 years from now would leave us with. I personally don't think we have the opportunity to wait, and that's mine, I guess, staff opinion.
Very good.
Jeremy, being a longtime resident of Westfield, I would have preferred we went around. But going around 10 years ago we're way out of that option as far as cost. Because if we went around either north or south, we'd have to buy a lot more real estate that's in this agreement here. Going through, you tear off a lot of the south side of Old Westfield, but what's historical there is kind of vanished anyhow to a certain extent. I'll probably get a lot of opposition to that statement, but it's true. And if we should bid this thing and it's way more expensive than we think, we can exit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
State
and-
is a partner with us, and if we bid it and it appears to be excessive, way excessive, we can say this is, we would be put on a waiting list again, basically.
That's essentially correct, yes, and even further, the environmental process will look at all alternative traffic patterns. So essentially, we will evaluate, do a detailed traffic pattern study right now with projections for what future traffic will be based on growth and what all those things they do. If going around or doing something else is a more economical option, then the federal requirement mandates that we take that. So as far as taking everything to the south, historically, we don't really know the answer to that yet because we are pretty well binded by the federal process in the historical buildings. So,
I'm going to assume this is a typical project in that the designers will probably have multiple options to look at, so there'll also be a number of public hearings held so that the residents have a chance to voice their support or opposition or concerns about any of the proposed bypass options that would exist. So we're probably talking 3 years before we actually get spades in the ground, so to speak, in order to get construction going by the time you do environmental impact and all the different options on design.
yeah, that's absolutely correct. And there will be an extensive public input session as it comes through the process as required through the statute. The process itself is not any different than what we do for any of our MPO-funded projects. Those are all federal dollar eligible as well. So we're very familiar with the process, and there will be public involvement. And to answer your question, yes, we are 3+ years away from any kind of construction activity.
I have a few questions and comments. How far into the engineering do we need to be to know really what we're talking about in cost?
Well, first we have to do the environmental so that we can create the alignment. I understand there's an exhibit in the documents that shows an alignment. That was necessary for us to be able to set a preliminary engineering estimate. So once we get further down into that process, we identify what it's going to be, then there's an extensive amount of design. But to answer your question, I think the question you're asking is, are we going to have enough time by the time we get the engineer's estimate to back out before construction?
And also, how much do we have to spend to know that we do or don't need to back out?
That's a question we don't know yet, so that's, after approval of this is when we enter the negotiations with the consultant. We will have,
Typically, aren't our fees about 10% of the total cost of the project?
yeah, consulting fees are about 10%.
And that initial engineering, that will be our cost, not NDOT.
Correct, and generally speaking, there is a solid engineer's estimate at about 30% design. By that time, that's around the same time that we'll understand what right-of-way is going to look like. So we'll understand arguably some of the right-of-way costs as well.
And my concern with this agreement is more about the partnership, if you will.
Mhm.
And it's not so much a 50-50 as NDOT is capped, and we are not. And so any overages are on us. And pretty much they're doing the inspection and the right-of-way.
They're doing right-of-way and then contributing any dollars up to that $7.5 million, so if the project is $15 million, we both put in $7.5 million. If the project is $12 million, they put in $6 million, we put in $6 million.
What if the project's 25?
Then we would know that well in advance, and we can back out of the agreement per the exit clauses.
And that, my concern, I conveyed it to NDOT
Mhm.
last week, and I was really hoping that we could find a way to make it a true 50-50. And I feel like the potential risk is on our city or state
Did you
road.
try?
I did.
How'd you do?
I'm still waiting to see if we can get this changed, but,
Well, as I told you in our meeting,
I know.
we all tried. We got the best deal we think we can get. If you can do better, go for it.
It's really hard to take on that level of risk and cost for a project that doesn't belong to us. That's kind of my problem. in
Well,
my-
let me add that the widening of 32 was a part of the comprehensive plan for downtown that you all approved many years ago. So we've anticipated doing this for quite a while.
And we're in a rock and a hard place because our community really needs to see some improvement there, but we also have a lot of other needs that are gonna be significantly expensive as well. So it all has to come into play. And my concern is that the level of service is not good, and the fact that NDOT can continue a poor level of service, and I think we should share in that cost to rectify. Just my opinion.
If it gives you any ease, these numbers are numbers that we put together. This is, in my opinion, a very, very solid number for both right-of-way and construction, especially understanding that we're only reconstructing about a half a mile of road here. So this isn't a 37 project, this isn't a 31 project. It is legitimately a half a mile of road. To think that it's $20 million is kind of, it's off the wall. But luckily, we have the ability to get down the road a little bit. Early on, we'll understand exactly what we're dealing with, and we can address those concerns as they come up.
So Jeremy, we've got, we've got the cash on hand to do this part. If it's seven and a half million, we've got the money to do that without issuing a bond to do this project.
We have a funding strategy that will allow us to have cash on hand and not bond it.
Yes, we intend to use cash for our $7.5 million, not debt.
You know, anybody who stands up at Union and 32 in the morning for westbound traffic and you see it backed up, probably to Kroger, you can't see that far. And then in the evening on eastbound traffic, you have gridlock in the roundabout there by the hospital. This is a needed project, and I don't think we can actually assess either the economic impact that's occurring right now negatively because of gridlock, nor how this could impact the, I guess, speeding up of the Grand Junction development once all the traffic problems are solved. So there's good economic reasons why we should do this too. So it's not just a matter of dollars and cents on a project, but dollars and cents for the entire community.
I completely agree.
I think it's important to note that this agreement simply allows us to move forward on something that I think we all agree is needed. If we don't do this agreement, we are essentially stuck with what we have for at least 10 years and maybe a lot longer, because the state's funding could change at some point. So while there is certainly some risk in this, I think we do have, I believe we need to move forward to find out what that risk might be, because if we do nothing, I think our risk is much greater than if we do something. We can always back out at the appropriate time if we find that the costs are running much higher than projected. And we're gonna know a lot more a year or two from now than we do now. We can't just stop. We can't just do nothing.
I'll add a couple comments. I think too that while our risk is there, what they have planned is just unacceptable. I mean, it just is. And the majority of these additional costs are going to come at the upgrade of our community that they're just not going to do. They just aren't. And for us to not take advantage of this and at least see where we're going is just a huge mistake. So it's not that we don't have any option, but this is just the wise, prudent thing to do. So personally, just me, when I heard about this months ago, I mean, it was a pretty exciting day. I thought it was outstanding that we even finally got the attention. We've only been asking this for years and years. I mean, how many times, Mayor, have you talked and asked?
Oh, about 10 years.
Yeah, about 10 years. So when we got the call and said this has been moved up, and oh, by the way, you know, we have an opportunity to upgrade our community. It's just, there's no other way to say it than we got to go for it. I mean, it's pretty simple. I will address a bit of the funding strategy that this, while this is new, it's not new. I mean, we've been working on this. We've been putting away funds, and not only that, in our funding of this, the good news is that it's now 18, so we can start planning, put it in our budget, in our long-term strategic plan, because it's not going to get paid for over a year or two. It's going to get paid for over probably 5 or 6 years.
All right. Anyone else?
I agree with the fact that we have to be prudent in all of our decisions. We have a lot of very bright people that have negotiated great deals for us in the past. Comfortable this is probably about as good as we're going to do with NDOT, and that with the advanced planning that we have to fund it, we've got to start making tracks on doing some good, because I don't think there's any disagreement in the room that what's out there is not good. And if we don't do something, we'll continue to look at something that gets worse and worse. So it's a great opportunity. I'm thrilled it's in front of us. Let's go.
All right. Well, thank you, counselors. All right. This was up for adoption consideration for October 22nd. Counselor, do we need to suspend the rules? No? Okay. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
No. So do we need to, we can act on it as is in normal process? Yeah, okay, very good, very good. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion and to approve the interlocal agreement, State Road 32 NDOT.
I move to approve State Road 32 NDOT interlocal agreement.
I have a motion from Dr. Keene.
Second.
Okay.
Give it to Joe.
It's a toss-up.
Give it to Joe.
Okay, and then second by Joe Edwards. Any further discussion among council? Hearing none, will you please call poll council, Cindy?
Yes.
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 Yes, with reservations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you, council.
Thank you.
Council, thank you very much. Jeremy? Get it done, don't come back till it's finished.
Okay. Moving on, and the next item under new business is ordinance 18-48. And this is an additional appropriation. Todd Patron is not here tonight. You're presenting, Brian. All right, and this is just an introduction.
Yes, it's just an introduction for a proposed additional appropriation from our cash reserves in the amount of approximately $175,000. That additional appropriation is for primarily personnel in Public Works and Grand Park.
Okay. Do councilors have any questions this time?
Just to make note that it actually says personal services. I think you mean to say personnel. Am I missing something? Okay, it needs to be changed to personnel then, not personal.
Okay. Duly noted. Any other comments? Then we will have a public hearing on October 22nd, and it'll be up for adoption that same time. The next item on the agenda has been continued to our October 22nd meeting, so we will hear that at that time. And so we're down to ordinance 18-41 and 18-47. Both we can hear together, and Matthew, you're presenting tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This involves the annexation of two areas. One is 32 acres in size, the other is 82 acres in size. I'll flash these location maps up individually. This is one of the areas. This is the 32-acre area on the southeast corner of Grassy Branch and 38, part of the North Point project. And the other portion is this 82-acre area, northwest corner of 196th and Grassy Branch. As I said, this is part of the North Point PUD project that was recently adopted. The areas are planned for industrial uses. This is both of these are 100% voluntary annexations scheduled for public hearing this evening. If you have any questions of me, I'm happy to respond.
All right. We can take Brian, we can take these both together for the public hearings? All right. These are both up for a public hearing tonight, and so at this time, it is 7:38. We'll open the public hearing on both ordinance 18-41 and 18-47. Would anybody care to speak to these two ordinances? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:39. Again, this is a public, this is an introduction, and these will be up for adoption on November 12th, 2018.
And there will also be fiscal plans that accompany these for your next meet, that same meeting.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, at this time, that concludes our regular business. Residents who wish to address council on items not on the agenda may do so at the present time.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think there might be a different card for this. Linda Nass, 1122 East 161st Street. I want to address the issue of communication and how we get information for public hearings. Not specifically on anything on the agenda tonight, but there are processes in place. We can contact the clerk treasurer's office and request documents. There's a formal form for that. For this evening's meeting, I did that. We can contact our counselors for this evening's meeting. I did that also. I sent a list of questions to two counselors. I didn't get responses back because I don't believe they had the answers either. So in response to saying we can just pick up the phone and call people, it has been my experience and been told directly, we can't just call anybody in the city government and talk to them. We're supposed to follow the procedures and the pathway, and my neighbors have been very respectful of doing that. Sometimes I've been referred to the city attorney, and I've talked to him on several things, and he's been very helpful. The clerk treasurer's office has been helpful when they have the information that I need. What we requested today, by 1:30 this afternoon, I finally had some information. Then we had to spend the afternoon going through it and seeing if it answered our questions. It did not answer our questions. And our understanding from a public hearing and talking to the public access counselor is this is the place where the public comes forward in a hearing and asks our questions, whether there's answers that evening or not. So we believe we're appropriate in coming to public hearings and saying, here's the questions. We've done the most homework that we could do to find the information. We couldn't find it. I've listened to audios of the presentation. Others have. We've read every document we could get our hands on. We still had questions. And we were comparing documents tonight with documents from last year and years and years and years and years ago, because I've come to public hearings on budgets for many, many years that I've lived here in Westfield. And it just seems that we're getting less and less information every year, so we have more and more questions, but we don't really have a pathway to get the answers. I don't believe I can just pick up the phone and call Todd Bertrand or Joe or Tammy, but if I can, let me know tonight, and I will let my neighbors and other residents know that we can have that pathway, because we haven't had it in the past. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else care to address council at this time on items not on the agenda? Okay. Thank you. City council comments.
Mr. Chairman, I've got an issue with the parking around the junction of East Street and State Road 32. That junction has been complicated a bit by the opening of the Field Distillery or whatever, brew house or whatever it is. But I use that exit every day, just about, and I learn not, at certain times of the day, you take your life in your hands there. And there's a no parking zone on the north side of 32, up about halfway in that block, where they're not supposed to park, but they do park there. And so that, if certain vehicles are parked in there, it prohibits you from seeing to the west. And when they come over the top of the hill, they're not going 30 miles an hour a lot of times, they're exceeding the speed limit. And so it makes it pretty risky just to pull out. I think we do need some, I don't know what we need to do, an ordinance or something that allows us to restrict parking in that little space there where you can't see. Plus, there's some campaign signs that kind of block the vision there too for the school board. It's not city council business. But I think we got to be careful there, because somebody is going to be very badly hurt at that intersection.
Yeah, I agree. That intersection is bad enough without parked cars, and hey, this parking, to have a parking problem is wonderful. Been saying that for years. You told me 10 years ago we'd have a parking problem in downtown Westfield, I would doubt you.
Now we got it.
Now we got it. And it's a beautiful new restaurant. I think they're seeing a lot of people coming, and I did a count the other day. There are some 150 parking places within 3 blocks. What kind of kills me sometimes is everybody wants a walkable city, but nobody wants to walk a block to a restaurant, you know. But yes, we are, Jeremy and I went over that just today, and his people are looking at it. I think they went and looked at it today, and there are several parking spaces east and west of East Street that we need to eliminate. And we'll get the site back to really the way it was, but the way it is not the best either until we get a roundabout built there, and now it's coming, so we'll get it solved. Thank you.
You know, you also have Cherry Street as a problem too, the south side going on at 32, but also I noticed in traversing that area, people crossing from the north side to the south side, and there are no crosswalks there, and I realize it's a state road, but there may be something we need to look into to help expedite pedestrian traffic across, because a lot of the parking places are on the north side of
Yes, they are.
32.
I think we all agree on that, so that's good.
I've been fielding a lot of questions, and, I mean, I think we do need to make some changes, but also there's an enforcement issue, because we just have people parking in places that are not parking spots. So I think that will solve some of the problem, but I would hope we'd look at it further. Also, I did talk to Birch about moving that school board sign, and
big
he
sign.
is going to move it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So you've fielded questions. Is that a pun?
Very good, very good. Steve, anything from APC?
APC met last Monday evening, October 1st. We had one item on our consent agenda that was approved, a Discount Tire parking lot expansion down on Thatcher Lane. And we had multiple public hearings, first being Lindley Run PUD, southeast corner of 196th and Grassy Branch Road. We had several people speak at that public hearing, both for and against, with some with concerns about that project. We also held public hearings on Han Plaza PUD, the Stuckey Farm PUD, the Chatham Hills Section 5, secondary plat, and Grand Junction Plaza PUD. None of those had anyone speak the public hearing except for Grand Junction Plaza. We had one person speak at that in support of that PUD. That was it.
All right, thank you. Any other counselors? We have been recently recognized by AIM, which is the new name of the Association of City and Towns, that organization. And Westfield received an award as being Green City. We were in the category of 10 to 50,000 population, and we were recognized at their fall convention down in southern Indiana this past week. And we have strived to be very, very caring about the environment, very efficient in our processes to eliminate waste, and we were recognized for those efforts. And so congratulations to all those at the city and making that happen. Tonight, in keeping with that, we have talked about doing something about preserving the tree stands that we have left in the city and looking at ways to do that. And I would like to have anybody that would be interested in serving on a group to talk about how this may come about. So if you're interested, I would ask you to get in touch with me, and we could set up a small task group that might involve a developer to have that discussion about tree preservation and what that might look like within the city of Westfield. So if you're interested, please reach out and contact me. We certainly appreciate the efforts we've made so far, and we want to continue those efforts and be continually recognized for being a green community. And it takes all of us working together. All right, Mr. Mayor, do you have any comments for us?
Thank you. Coming up this weekend out at Grand Park, we have the Grand Games, which is a huge CrossFit event out there, a lot of muscle. We're hoping to make this eventually one of the largest events here in the Midwest for this particular sport. I understand that all the council members are going to participate. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
I'll see how my new hip does.
As a team, it'd be good. Okay. So, of course, I will not, but we'd love to see you out there. Also out there, the planning's underway. The Big Ten Men and Women's Soccer Championships are, is that the first week of November? First 2 weekends. It's men and then women? William? Women's and then men, okay, we were very fortunate to get that back. We need to get our huge local soccer community to attend, because, I mean, it's a big deal, it is a Big Ten championship, but these teams come from Iowa or New Jersey or in anywhere in between, and they just don't bring a whole lot of folk with them. And I would love to see a lot more people than we've had the last couple years. It's really great to watch. I mean, it's highly competitive. I think last year, was it William? We got into bad weather, and we actually moved it inside, so that was fun. That has probably never happened in the history of Big Town soccer, so that was always fun. And also, we're going to be very excited, October 16th at 10:30 at the Monon Trail on 191st Street. We'll be celebrating something that we have been working on for 12 years, and that is the completion of our portion of the Monon Trail, which now completes that trail from downtown Indy all the way to Sheridan. And we hope to have representatives from Indianapolis and Carmel and Sheridan, the county there. It's a pretty big deal to have that during your time here. When it began, you know, we did the very first section from 146 to 151 as the Bernard Mile and Bernal, and he's still with us. I hope to, as I promised Alan, to take him from one end of ours to the other end of ours, and hopefully he'll take me up on that. So put that down. We're very proud to be able to get that finished for the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, that concludes our business for the evening. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.